Yes, Cyberpunk is officially coming to VR, just not in the way anyone actually wanted. We've got a lot of cool VR news to get through, so let's do this. CD Projekt Red just announced they're partnering with Zero Latency to create a location-based VR experience set in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. So instead of playing this at home on your headset, you'll have to physically go to one of these VR arcade locations to try it. Now, to be fair, this is full free roam multiplayer VR where you and a group can physically walk around and explore Night City together, which is something the original game never had. And honestly, that part sounds sick. Cyberpunk with actual co-op, physically moving through the world with other players, that's kind of the dream version of VR for a lot of people. But here's the catch. This isn't a full VR port of the game, it's a separate self-contained experience built specifically for these arcade setups. So yeah, no playing this at home, no full campaign in VR, no mod replacement. And speaking of that, the timing here is really interesting, because this comes right after the whole Luke Ross situation, where his Cyberpunk VR mod got hit with the DMCA after being up for years. And I mean, you can connect the dots. Official VR experience gets announced, mod disappears right before. Not saying that's definitely the reason, but it's a little hard to ignore. Either way though, I'm still curious and will try it when it's available. Zero latency stuff can actually be really fun if you've got a group, and this is probably the closest we're ever getting to official Cyberpunk VR. We don't have a release date yet, but they've said it's coming soon to locations worldwide, so this might be something we're checking out in the near future. And this next one makes the whole location-based VR takeover feel even more real, because Black Mirror is also getting a VR experience. This one is launching first in Montreal, and just like the Cyberpunk situation, it's built specifically for location-based setups. So again, not something you're playing at home. But unlike Cyberpunk, this feels perfect for VR arcades. Black Mirror has always been about putting you inside uncomfortable, tech-driven scenarios, and VR is basically the ideal medium for that. From what's been revealed, this is going to be a narrative-driven experience where you're not just watching the story, you're in it, making decisions and interacting directly with the world around you. And if they lean into the psychological side of Black Mirror properly, this could be one of those experiences that sticks with you after you take the headset off. But again, same limitation. You've got to physically go to a location to try it. Which raises the bigger question. Are we about to see more and more of these major IPs skip home VR entirely and go straight to these controlled environments instead? Because on one hand, it makes sense. It's more accessible, there's no motion sickness risk, and you get to enjoy it with friends. But on the other, it kinda sucks if you just want to experience this stuff at home. Especially since nowadays, even some standalone Quest 3 games have better graphics than what you'd get in a VR arcade. Either way, between Cyberpunk and now Black Mirror, this trend is definitely starting to feel intentional. So if you've been waiting for a real VR world you can actually jump into from home, this is where things get interesting. Alright, I've been super excited for this one ever since it was announced, a proper VR MMORPG. It's called Eldramoor, and they're also kindly sponsoring this segment. They're running a limited alpha right now from April 8th to April 20th. And this is the first time players can actually experience the full gameplay loop. And I don't mean like a vertical slice or a demo. I mean actual MMO stuff. Exploring different regions, fighting creatures, doing quests, crafting gear, fishing, cooking, and even grouping up for a full-on world boss fight. But the real reason this is interesting isn't just the features list. It's that this is live, unscripted VR MMO chaos. You've got real players running around, unexpected interactions, people figuring things out on the fly, secrets hidden around the world. It's the kind of stuff that either turns into magical moments or a complete mess. And both will be a ton of fun. Now, quick reality check, this is an alpha. It's early, things are still evolving, and part of the whole point is that players jumping in now actually help shape what this game becomes. If you've ever complained that VR needs a real MMO, this is your chance to influence one. If you want in, you can grab alpha and beta access using the link in the description. That gets you into the testing now, future beta access, and a copy of the game at early access release. Also, feel free to join their Discord community, left a link to that below too. So yeah, if you're into VR, MMOs, or just want to be early to something that could be what many of us have been waiting for, this is one to check out. Thanks Eldramoor for sponsoring this segment. Now let's move on with more VR news. Moving on with some news from Valve, this is a completely different direction for VR, but also kind of important. Valve just released a Steam Link beta for Apple Vision Pro, which basically lets you stream PC games from your computer straight to the headset, which is something people have been asking for since the headset headset launched. But notice how I said PC games and not PC VR games? Yeah, because it's meant for streaming flat games only, at least at the current time. It also kind of raises the bigger question again. Is Apple eventually gonna lean more into gaming, or are they just letting Valve quietly solve that problem for them? Either way, this is one of those updates that doesn't look huge today but could matter a lot later. Okay, you know I had to include some weird shit too, but it might actually be one of the most important things in this video. There's a company called Augmental that's built a mouth-based controller that lets you control devices just using your tongue. And I know how that sounds, but the demos are kind of insane. They've shown someone playing Mario Kart completely hands-free just using tongue inputs, and even controlling an electric wheelchair in the same way. So this isn't just a gimmick, it's a full input system. The device basically sits in your mouth like a retainer, and it can detect precise tongue movements to translate them into controls. And while this isn't tied directly into VR yet, it's really hard not to see where this goes. Because one of the biggest barriers in VR right now is physical input. Controllers assume you can use your hands. Hand tracking assumes a certain level of mobility. But something like this opens the door for people who otherwise couldn't interact with VR at all. And that's the kind of innovation that actually expands the audience, not just adds another feature for people who are already here. So yeah, this might look like a niche story on the surface, but this kind of tech could quietly change who gets to be part of VR in the first place. And sticking with that bigger ecosystem picture, this Android XR updates actually add some interesting pieces. Now, enterprise is a big part of it, but some of these features will absolutely trickle down to consumers in the future. Google and Samsung are adding deeper workplace support for Galaxy XR, with things like easier large-scale deployments, better device management, and stronger security, which obviously is not the sexiest headline in the world. But the more interesting part is that they're also adding automatic 3D conversions for photos and videos. So the headset can take regular 2D media and transform it into immersive 3D experiences. And now that extends to stuff in Chrome and YouTube on top of the Google Photos support that was already there. So this update might not feel like a flashy, game-changing moment, but more like Samsung and Google quietly filling in the cracks to make this technology easier to adopt. And now we get into something that could change how all of this content actually gets made. And this is kinda wild. Meta is now pushing a new workflow that lets you use AI like Claude, Codex, or others to actually build and interact with WebXR experiences using natural language. So instead of manually coding everything from scratch, you can basically describe what you want, and the AI helps generate interactive VR content for you. We're talking about creating WebXR apps, testing them, and even interacting with them, all through this agent-based workflow. And the big idea here is speed, lowering the barrier so more people can prototype VR ideas quickly without needing to be a full-on developer, which, if it actually works well, could be a pretty big deal. Because one of the biggest problems in VR right now is just how difficult and costly it is to build for it. And tools like this could make it easier for creators to experiment, build weird ideas, and iterate faster. And for those of you into augmented reality, let's zoom out a bit and look at where this is all heading. Snap and Qualcomm just announced a deeper partnership to build next-generation AR glasses, expected to start showing up this year. And the big focus here is making AR actually feel wearable. We're talking lighter designs, better performance, and hardware that's powerful enough to run more advanced AR experiences, without needing something bulky strapped to your face. This is all being built on Qualcomm's XR chips, which are basically becoming the backbone of a lot of upcoming XR devices. But what makes Snap interesting here is that they've already been iterating on AR glasses for years with the spectacles. So this isn't their first attempt, it's more like the next serious step towards something that could actually be consumer ready. And importantly, this isn't just about hardware, they're also pushing their developer ecosystem, trying to make it easier to build AR experiences that actually work in the real world, which is key because AR without good software is basically just a tech demo. But if companies like Snap and Qualcomm actually get this right, AR glasses might finally start to feel less like prototypes and more like something people actually want to wear every day. So yeah, VR and AR are evolving fast, but not always in the direction most people expected. It's not just about better headsets anymore, it's where you experience it, how it's built, and even who gets to use it. And depending on how that plays out, the future of VR might look completely different than what people originally signed up for. But I'm all in for the ride and hope you are too. I'll catch you soon, guys. Cheers!